Do you know what I love? Meeting friends after work at a local brewery, maybe gathering around an old barrel or something, sipping a well-crafted, juicy IPA while discussing personal finance.
Matt, buddy, you're totally speaking my language, except I'm pretty sure most peeps in this scenario aren't talking about money with their friends, because that's a super awkward topic.
Why does everyone make it so weird, dude?
I know, right? It doesn't have to be that awkward.
Yeah, man, we like to talk about personal finance, especially weekly in my dining room over a craft beer on our podcast, How to Money.
Whether we're talking about ways to cut your grocery bill, creating side hustles, or traveling the world on less, we're having conversations about personal finance and how it relates to normal people who want to enjoy life and also be money smart.
That's right. We're all about making these topics relatable and enjoyable, so it's something you'll want to talk about the next time you meet up for drinks.
So if you want to level up your personal finance game, then be sure to listen and subscribe on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for How to Money.
This is Incredible Health with Dr. David Fitko.
Good morning. Good morning, my good friends. It's Dr. David Vitko. I'll bet you didn't recognize that jingle, did you? Well, my good friend Viking came up with something that is not copyright protected, hopefully, and maybe I identify with, too. I kind of like that little guitar jingle there, and we'll try that. Thanks, Vike. I appreciate your efforts on that. I post my podcasts in a lot of different places online, and I think it was YouTube kicked me back one time because of the jingle we were using was a Don Henley jingle, and man, I love Don Henley's music, but of course you know that, I don't know, there are rules, and all these guys know, some of these guys know these rules. You can use 30 seconds worth or less for radio intro or whatever under the radio light. I don't know. You know, who am I? I'm just a guest here over the past year. But anyway, that kind of troubled me because if they kicked me off once because of a copyright issue, I don't want to be down the road somewhere and have something come up and say, hey, you owe us $8 million for using all this music. So we got one without a copyright to it, and I kind of like that. We'll see how it goes. If you got any comments, pro or con, let me know, and maybe we can make a change in that in the future if too many people don't like it. But so this is Enjoy Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko. I'm your host every week at Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on WKBN Radio. And so today we're going to get into a lot of different things. You know, I'm a chiropractic physician, you know, just to reveal it all. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm going to talk about cancer here today because of my own cancer diagnosis. A lot of people have been asking me how I'm doing. And listen, folks, it's easier for me just to kind of do it on the radio and get it all out there instead of explaining to 40 different people. I love you all, but it gets tiresome explaining how things are going so many times. It's not that I don't want to tell you. I want to share with everyone because I think there's good news coming out of it so far. And I think I'm on the right track, and I want to share that with as many people as I can because we all need good news in health. Because God knows when you go to your medical doctor, and especially when you get a diagnosis of cancer, the news is not always that uplifting, and the prognosis and their take on how you're going to do is not all that uplifting because they see the worst of the worst. And my outlook's a little different. I have a very positive outlook. I don't take it as a death sentence. I don't take it as you can only do this and succeed effort. I think there are many different ways to approach it. May or may not be successful, but it's what I choose to do. And I can tell you that now it's about 5 or 6 weeks beyond when I would have started some sort of concerted effort with radiation and chemo and eventually the esophagectomy where they cut out your esophagus. And so I'm glad I didn't go down that path because I'm still enjoying life. I'm actually eating better now than I did. And was told that at about 4 weeks of treatment, I probably would have needed a feeding tube because my esophagus would have been burnt to a crisp and not able to handle food anymore. And so I'm glad I didn't go down that road. And it's no offense to the doctors who were kind of nudging me that direction. That's what they know. And that's their education and that's their experience. And I think there's another way to look at it. And certainly if anybody's going to come up with a different way to look at things, it's me, because I always seem to do that. But anyway, so we're going to see how that works out. I am feeling somewhat better, and I'm going to go into that here in just a little bit. So I apologize for not being here 2 weeks ago. I didn't get the chance to talk about it last week very much, because last week we got preempted by Mr. Trump and his uplifting message of killing a couple of these bad ISIS guys. Glad to hear that anytime. Sorry if that offends you, but oh well. And but I also, last week was, so we only got a few minutes in. Last week I gave you a little tease. I want to talk about this week how censorship is going to limit your ability to choose the kind of health care you get. There's a lot more at stake than just censorship on that. There's a lot more affecting it than just censorship. The other thing that is affecting the care you're going to get down the road is the homogenization of care. And, this artificial intelligence is bringing medicine to the point where you'll be able to plug in a set of symptoms and extract a diagnosis and a treatment. And it'll get to the point where it's so commonplace, you'll probably be able to do it in an online site, which, hey, I'm using an online site partly to treat my cancer. And but there's probably a lot of things maybe some of you have consulted a physician online already. That's already happening. And in many ways, that's a good thing. It could make it healthcare more available to the masses. But in some ways, that homogenization takes out that personal touch. And when you can't sit down face to face with your doctor, like I had the opportunity to do this last week, it was an uplifting experience in many ways. And it's a good friend of mine, too, so I get to spend time with a good friend of mine on a professional basis. And, a lot of people have good relationships with their doctors, and they're going to hate to lose that. So, one of the things I want to hear from you today, if anybody would like to call in, the number here is 330-729-9977. That's 729-9977. I'd love to talk to you today, whether it's about an experience you had with your doctor, with the current healthcare system, with artificial intelligence in the healthcare system, with medications, with cancer, whatever you would like to call in and talk about. I'm up for it today. And I've got kind of a mishmash of things that I want to bring in and talk about. If I get to them, okay. If not, that's okay too. But I'm wondering if anybody out there has had the experience where their doctor has actually either dismissed them from care or shuffled them off to another doctor for care. Because I'm aware of some things that are happening through Medicare. Medicare is making it very challenging for physicians and hospitals now, in that, especially with the hospitals, they're getting fined. Like if patients come back too soon for the same issue, hospitals can get fined for that. Physicians can get their reimbursements docked for different things. And I know a lot of insurance companies, too, are really making these doctors toe the line with regards to almost making patients do the treatments the way the doctors are prescribing it. And it's not just through your doctor. That comes back to the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies, and it gets to the point where this is one of the aspects that's going to limit our ability to choose what you do in health and what kind of health care you can get. So for me, for instance, I'm diagnosed with esophageal cancer. I take a few weeks and I research it because I've got that ability and I've got that knowledge, at least enough that I'm comfortable with it for myself. And, I come up with the kind of treatment that I want to pursue. Somewhere down the road, that might not be possible. And I can see that happening sooner rather than later. And the reason is, I have a fairly comfortable relationship with doctors who I trust and who respect me enough to work with me on this. But if the average person said, well, I want to do an alternative cancer treatment, there's a good chance your doctor is going to say, nah, the insurance company, that doesn't fit into what they do. They're not going to pay. You could pay cash, but also the insurance company may limit my ability to do that with you as a patient. And that might, and he or she might not say it this way, but that might give them a little bit of a black mark with the insurance company if they do work with people outside the scope of what's considered to be normal care or correct care or common protocols in treatment. And so, that might be coming down the pike sooner than you think. And I think there are a lot of things happening in healthcare right now that could conspire to bring that all together sooner rather than later. And so if you want to call in, if you've had an experience with that, you want to call in and talk about that, we'll do that and try to get to the bottom of some of this stuff and maybe give in some real life experiences. I don't think this is just my fantasy that this is happening, folks. I think there's a lot of things going on out there in healthcare that we may not all be aware of that are happening behind the scenes, that are manipulating what the healthcare that we'll be able to receive and the healthcare that the insurance companies are willing to pay for. And the sad thing is, it's not all based on what really works. Let that sink in for just a minute or so, because, sometimes treatments are carried out that may not have the best end results, and yet they're pursued time after time after time through history because they become commonplace and they're accepted as common treatment. So that can happen. So I lost Mike in the other room, but here I got a caller. I'm going to take a chance and take a caller here without screening them. And go ahead, line one. Who have I got here, and what can I do for you?
Hi, my name's Debbie. I'm actually calling in response to your recent comment about have you ever been dismissed from a doctor? And I was, and he actually labeled me as being difficult because I was not getting the care I thought I deserved, and the treatments, which were many, none of them were working. And every time I would ask questions or bring up alternative things, I was labeled as difficult.
Yeah.
And I was very taken aback by that because I had this gentleman for 15 years. And I just was I felt like I was betrayed by my doctor.
And you felt like you had a good relationship with him before that, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I did what I was supposed to do. I saw him on a regular basis. There was never any issue of trust. I trusted this doctor completely.
Yeah.
But when I started to, what had happened was I had exercised, tore my meniscus. It never seemed to get any better. Nobody had any type of treatment for him with it. But I kept getting shuffled to specialists to test. Found out about a year down the road that I started getting osteonecrosis in my knee. And when I asked about different forms of treatment, like PRP injections, I was looked at why would you go with that snake oil kind of thing? We're just going to have to wait till your knee collapses and then we'll replace it. In the meantime, I was 50. I didn't want a knee replacement.
Right.
The thought of that scared me to death. And all they wanted to do was inject me with cortisone, which honestly made me feel worse. And so when I started to refuse the injections, they thought I was pain pill seeking. I'm like, I don't want your pain pills either.
Mm-hmm. Anybody who takes the narcotic-based pain pills would probably agree with me, or a lot of people probably would, that they really don't help that much. The amazing thing to me, with treating my cancer now, I'm using some pain medications, and honestly, it's a minimal. It does help me minimally, and that's worth it to me. But they don't work as well as you would think that they would.
Exactly. And what I noticed when I did take a pain pill is it took the edge off, but the pain was still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't need that. I wanted something fixed because it was hindering my life. And I still, 5 years later, do not have a knee replacement. I had PRP injections a couple of times. and it gets me to like a year and a half, and then I can start feeling the pain come back. And to me, it's worth it every couple of years to keep me from having a knee replacement.
Sure.
And I take curcumin
Right.
for pain, and I found more relief with that than like cortisone and things like that, because to me, I felt worse. And they thought that I was, I don't know, like an argumentative patient, because I just didn't agree with the level of care or treatment I was getting.
Yeah,
So now I limit myself to who I see.
You didn't fit the mold. And more and more, that's becoming the issue, is that, and doctors, no offense to any doctor out there, but they are having to work within a tighter and tighter confine of how long they have to spend with a patient, to come up with a diagnosis, to come up with a treatment plan, and to get that patient into that treatment plan and through it, basically, is the game plan. But, not everybody is going to fit into that. And osteonecrosis is nothing to fool around with. I mean, eventually that's going to damage the bone to the point where, it's not going to be salvageable. And you probably will have to get that thing replaced eventually. But you're right. Hey, the longer you can keep that thing viable, the better, obviously. And that's what they were trying to do. But cortisone probably is not the way to go for most people. It has a potential to damage joints and other things in the body. So, especially with bone density and all. But I appreciate your call. Thanks for calling in. And I think there's probably more people out there with stories like that if they really think about it, maybe sometimes their doctor just kind of gave them the cold shoulder, or maybe just kind of nudged them out or off to see somebody else and didn't even notice it. But yours was pretty obvious there. Thanks for calling. I appreciate the call.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too. So, there are a lot of those things. There we go. A lot of those things going on, folks, and you may not notice it. You may hear it from a friend. Maybe somebody else has had it happen in their life. And, your trusted doctor from years, things are changing. And they're changing for your doctor. And, all these, and it's been going on for years, that most of these private practices are being bought up by the hospitals. And I know that helps with reimbursement rates and things like that with Medicare. There's all kind of things that work there that us commoners have no clue about on the back end of things. But things are happening business-wise that are steering medicine in a given direction. And, we're not privy to most of that information. It's all behind the scenes. And, we just are along for the ride. And the best thing you can do, I believe, is to maintain the best relationship you can with your doctor if it's somebody that you trust and someone that you feel very comfortable in speaking with honestly. I mean, if you go in to your doctor's office and you feel uncomfortable bringing up a subject or a topic of health or some issue that you're having health-wise, because you're afraid your doctor is going to look poorly on you or, make some sly comments about you or something, you might want to think about finding another doctor. Because the most important thing you can have in a relationship with your doctor is being able to speak with them honestly. Because who knows what's going on inside your body better than you do? And you need to be able to relate that to your doctor in an honest sort of way, so that, your doctor has a good understanding of what's going on, and that in a way that you're not afraid to express yourself and think that you'll sound dumb. Trust me, we all sound dumb at times. You're not a medical doctor. You're not some kind of medical specialist, a researcher. So when you ask a doctor questions, they understand. You don't have, don't try to sound like you have this deep understanding of medicine, because that's more offensive, I think, to doctors than if you just go in and plainly speak and say, look, I have this issue. It's pain, or it's an annoying thing, or it's sharp pain, or, tell them the nature of the pain, how it started, things like that. And let your doctor come to the conclusion of what it is. Now, it's not guaranteeing that they're going to have an answer for what your issue, for what you have. We all hope that whatever we have has an answer. It's not always true. And I think this is partly modern medicine's fault for leading us down this path for generations in making it seem like they have an answer for every ill. And it's just not true. When you study, as I do, and you get deep into research and things, you find out very few things have clear-cut answers. For the most part, medications that are used to cover up symptoms and make your life more comfortable with those symptoms, and hopefully maybe control those symptoms to a degree to where you can continue living your life for however many decades you might have left, or maybe years you have left. And it's not to say that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but let's be honest about it up front. If you don't have a cure for what ails me, tell me, I want to be on this drug for the rest of my life. Does that have its own drawbacks? Is that drug going to really undermine the health of my liver or my kidneys and cause me to die of liver or kidney failure somewhere down the road? Those are things that you want to ask and you want to know, because that's all part of the bigger picture of healthcare. Now, man, I harp on this all the time, folks. There is a better way, and there is a way to try to be as healthy as you can be without being an idiot about it. To nudge yourself into a diet and lifestyle that creates the healthiest body that you can have, that might allow you to avoid the need for medications and things. Well, for instance, I wrote a book on lowering cholesterol without drugs. Now, to me, that seems like the logical approach to a high cholesterol problem when it has been proved to be highly successful, more successful than taking things like the statin drugs that lower cholesterol artificially by interfering with how your liver works and causing problems in that way, and eating these healthier foods, eating far less animal fats, the saturated animal fats and sugars are what upset our blood chemistries to the point where we gradually have an increase in cholesterol, we gradually have increasing triglycerides, we gradually have the onset of type 2 diabetes. You can avoid all those things by working to change your diet over time. Now, that doesn't mean you have to become an overnight vegan and say, I'll never eat another animal product. I'll tell you, I went down this road, folks. I gradually changed, and I got to the point where animal products mostly didn't appeal to me anymore. I found alternatives to those things. I learned to eat vegetables without butter on them and all this heavy salt and pepper and all this stuff. And I learned to appreciate the flavors of real fruits and vegetables, whole foods. And when you do that, you put yourself in a much better place, in a better position to leverage your health to a higher level without needing those medications. And in many cases, as I've seen in my patients, in many cases, when you're on these different medications to manipulate your blood chemistries and your blood fats and things, you can get off those medications by getting your blood in a healthy enough position to where it can manage itself. And you're able to then take these drugs out of the mix. And, I think most medical doctors out there would love to see patients who are interested enough in their own health that they make that daily effort, not from a nutty standpoint of, being off the deep end on it, but from a standpoint of, I'm adding lots more fruits and vegetables in my diet, and I'm cutting back on animal fats and sugar. I'm cutting sugar out of my diet. I think sugar is the worst thing we can do to our body in general, because it tends to tip the scale in favor of taking in far too many calories. And therein lies the real secret to health, in my opinion, is managing our energy efficiency in our bodies. And I talked about this in the past, and I talked about this last week, and I'm going to talk about it when we come back. If you can manage your energy efficiency and you can eat in a way where you don't take in far more energy than you need, your body can be way healthier. This is Dr. David Vitko. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes and with some more Enjoy Incredible Health. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Oh, yeah, I guess I kind of like that music. If you have an opinion otherwise, let me know. I kind of like that, though. Nothing like a little acoustic guitar. And no copyright attached to it. That's a good thing. So I want to do a couple of things. Three things I want to get to. This is one will just take a minute in this half hour, and that is, you had heard folks about the recall of Zantac and some of the other ones, Prevacid, Tagamet, Nexium, I forget, Prilosec, some of the medications for reflux, acid reflux. It's funny in the article they talk about it for heartburn, and basically that terminology, in my opinion, has been used for years because they want you to think it's something bigger. It's GERD. It's gastroesophageal reflux disease, which very well may have led to what I have in the esophageal cancer, and they blame a great deal of esophageal cancer on that as one of the main reasons for getting it, along with being a white male over 50 or 55, and if you're overweight or you smoke, or you drink excessively, eat fried foods. Those are all the things that contribute to esophageal cancer. Funny thing is, I was a whole food, plant-based guy. My weight was good. I exercised every day. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. Exercise, if you don't exercise, that contributes. I exercised every day. My weight was good. I maybe had a couple of beers on the weekend just to relax and kick back. And I never really had acid reflux except for once about 30 years ago, and it lasted a few weeks, and then it was gone. And I never had it after that. So how I got esophageal cancer, I don't know. But anyway, so, the funny thing is when I did get it, my doctor told me you should take, I ended up taking a Prilosec to basically quell that acid reflux. And the funny thing was, even up until then, I never really had acid reflux until I started taking that stuff. And then I started noticing the acid reflux. And, but I am, I guess, one of those contrary type people, and it seems to affect me that way. So maybe, that's just me. But these things, they pulled some of them off the market as Zantac and these things because of a concern about something in it, called, ranitidine or ranitidine, or I forget what it is, but potentially causing cancer, and it's in these drugs. Well, now the FDA came out and said, well, we investigated this and we don't believe that there is enough in there to cause cancer, and so we're telling you that we think it's safe, and they put a but in there, but they still need to study it further. So nothing like the FDA to give you good, solid information to work on, right? Yeah, no contradiction there or anything, no ambiguousness or anything in it. But it is, you just don't know what to trust these days. And when you're trusting medications, it's a leap of faith. There is no doubt, because most medications, the testing on humans is maybe limited, and then you find out years later when millions of people have been taking it, oh yeah, it does cause this or it does cause that, and things that you don't really want to have. And so you take those things at your own risk. And I have not found that to be helpful. And even with the esophageal cancer that I have, I was instructed that I probably should keep taking that, but it doesn't help. And so the reflux issue, I don't have a big reflux issue. So I want to talk a little bit about my cancer right now, just to give everybody the lowdown on what's going on. And just a refresher, I had my first symptom back in March of this year. It was difficulty swallowing, oatmeal of all things, a nice healthy food, oatmeal with fruit. And from that time on, I struggled with it. And a couple of months later, after trying some conservative things, because I thought it was a stricture, a tight spot in the esophagus, and I finally went and got scoped, and lo and behold, after the scope, my physician told me, no, it's not a stricture, it's cancer, and esophageal adenocarcinoma, which is not one that you necessarily want to get if you had your choice, because the long-term outcome is not necessarily good on it, and so it's a roll of the dice. Even the traditional gold standard medical treatment is not necessarily very exciting to do. They want you to do chemo, radiation, and have the esophagus cut out. And then you always have that possibility of new cancer arising later on from all the radiation that you get. Because it is in a central location. The esophagus is right near the trachea, the main stem bronchus for the lungs themselves, the heart, the spine. It's in a central location. It's kind of like put a new subway in New York City in the middle of Manhattan, where there are already a million things traveling underground there. So it's not necessarily a great place to do radiation. And then, of course, chemo has its own issues too. And so I decided not to go that route. The main reason was I wanted to keep my esophagus if possible. And so because the outlook for traditional treatment was not that great, I decided to go an alternative route. And I wasn't really given the choice of doing partial, some chemo or some radiation or anything like that. It was basically laid out to me that you either do the whole thing or your chances of surviving 5 years are pretty much zero. So I decided to try to find a little more optimistic view of things, and I went out and I looked for some other treatments. So I've decided on these things. Do or die. It is my choice, and I think they have plenty of validity behind them. There is scientific evidence to back all of it up, or I wouldn't be doing it. God knows I've had 100 different things recommended to me by people who are well-meaning, and I appreciate that, but with very little science actually to back up any claims on it at all, other than the anecdotal claims that people say, I took this and I beat cancer, And some, you can maybe listen to some of those, but most of those are questionable at best, especially if somebody's selling something in conjunction with it. So you have to be careful about that. But so I've chosen these things. I am taking off-purpose medication. There are 4 medications involved. One is Lipitor, so that keeps your cholesterol numbers down, which makes it difficult for new cells to form in the cancer spreading. Metformin, which is a way of keeping your blood sugar lower, because cancer does love sugar, and it thrives on sugar, and it thrives on sugar in a non-oxygenated environment. So it doesn't really need a good oxygen supply to thrive as long as it has sugar as a fuel. So metformin is another one. There are 2 other medications that are alternated, and one is doxycycline, which is a broad-based antibiotic, and the other one is mebendazole, which is an antiparasitic of all things. But these all have proven effects against cancer, and especially against metastasis. And this is really important because most cancers, the primary cancer doesn't usually kill the patient. It's the metastasis of the cancer that normally is what kills the patient. And so I took that to heart, and these medications were highly recommended to me by an oncology nurse who actually works for the company that sells these, but he's not making any money at it in what he does. He told me, he said, Dr. Vitko, I do this because this saved my life. That's why I do this. I'm not getting paid much. He said, I make more at my job. He said these things, he had stage 4 prostate cancer, took these medications. 17 months later, he's all clear. All his metastases are clear. Everything's gone. The cancer's gone from his body. And he was trying the conventional treatment at a big cancer hospital in L.A. and was getting nowhere with it. As a matter of fact, he was losing ground when he switched over and went to these other medications. So it came from a good anecdotal source firsthand. I love that. It's powerful. And so that's one of the things I chose to do. I'm on that. I've been taking that for 3 months, due for a reevaluation here with the online oncology doctor soon, and see if I'm going to continue with that. And I believe that I will, because I do feel like I've been making some progress. And in some ways, it's a strange thing. It's a roller coaster ride emotionally, because some days you feel like you're invincible, and other days you feel like you're knocking at death's door. And so it's an up and down kind of thing, but I will say that my good days are starting to outnumber the bad days, and I think that's a good sign. The other thing that I use that a lot of people will scoff at, but there is good science behind it, and that is ozone therapy. If you've not heard of ozone therapy, it's actually used in a lot of places around the world as a cancer treatment, in Europe, in Japan, some of the Scandinavian countries, and it has been demonstrated to have a detrimental effect on cancer cells. So when cancer cells are exposed to ozone directly, they die, and it stops them from propagating. And so to me, the fact that my cancer is exposed inside my esophagus to where I can access it somewhat directly by drinking ozonated water makes sense to me, that I can directly affect the cells themselves with this. And sure enough, when I drink ozone water, it's painful. It is painful for a whole day after that. And whether that's what I'm needing to feel or not, whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. I have not read anything that anybody's done in this regard, so I'm kind of having to forge my own path. But the fact that it hurts all day when I do the ozone water tells me that it's doing something, and that's better than nothing. And you know what? If I take a break from it for a couple of days, it starts feeling significantly better after a couple of days. So I'm kind of pulsing it, pacing my treatment a little bit with it, and I'm trying to learn as I go, which is maybe a dangerous thing. A good friend of mine once told me a little bit of knowledge is dangerous, and I'm probably at the top of the dangerous chart for that reason. But anyway, so those are the two major things that I'm doing. I also use over-the-counter NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, to help with pain, and those actually help to keep my pain level to the point where I can eat comfortably and keep my weight up. I feel, and I mentioned this in the last segment, that maintaining weight is very important in cancer treatment, but not gaining weight necessarily is important. And the reason is, the most important thing we can do in our body for blood health is to have some equilibrium, to have high energy efficiency, so that you're not taking in a lot more calories than you need on any given day. And you also, taking in less calories, like in fasting, can be healthful to a point, but it can be dangerous, because there are little nuances that most people don't understand. I've fasted many times, and I have a little bit more knowledge in that area. Again, probably just enough to be dangerous, but it's just for myself. And so when you eat less than you need, that's okay, but you can only do it for so long, folks. And that's why I look at the beautiful design of our body. We were not designed to fast until we just can't go anymore, and then eat and gain weight back, and fast and gain weight back. It's just not the design. If this is all part of fighting disease, the design needs to be efficient and effective. And to do that, I believe that keeping your energy efficiency at its maximum is the key. So if we can keep our energy efficiency at a high state, a high level, and maintain our weight so that we don't become emaciated and get cachexia, which is in cancer, that's how many people die. They get to the point where they just can't eat or just stop eating. And so I've been able to maintain my strength, folks. The last couple of weeks, if it's a nice day, I'm out walking. I walk 3 miles fast. I run 300 to 400 steps to get extra exercise. I lift weights 3 times a day. I've decided to do this exercise intensive to try to kind of get on top of things and to push myself a little bit. I have energy to do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I hit a point during the day where I bottom out and I have to rest. And it's not unusual for me to lay down for an hour and conk out for that good solid hour and wake up and not know where the heck I am because I'm in that deep of a sleep. But then I can get up and I can keep going. It's weird kind of stuff. But I'm kind of in a zone right now, and I feel like the cancer is maybe being manipulated into a direction that is good because it seems like my symptoms are lessening with each day. Now, I do get moments where it's bad, but hey, I'm not sure if that's the cancer growing or shrinking, or I don't know if it's swelling. It's been demonstrated that ozone will make cancer cells swell temporarily before they die. And so that's a possibility. So I'm using all these treatments in combination to try to have a good overall effect on the cancer. And I think it's working. I think I see enough positive signs out of this. And if you see me, you'll say, you don't look like you have cancer. Every patient that comes in, first they give me that lost puppy dog look like I'm dying or something. And then once I start talking, they're like, oh, you don't look like you have cancer. Well, I don't feel like I have cancer other than this chest pain that I get occasionally. And I've learned to work with. So we have just a few minutes to finish up here, folks. And when we come back, I'm going to go through one more thing that I want you to look out for. And it's Dr. David Vitko. Enjoy incredible health. We'll be back in a jiffy. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Alrighty, we're back and only have a few minutes, so I want to get into kind of pulling this whole thing together today. I know I was a little bit all over the place, but that's what I get for missing a couple of weeks, basically. And so what I wanted to fill you in on here, folks, is I was talking about this censorship thing. And the censorship thing, you might have noticed over the last couple of weeks that Mark Zuckerberg was testifying before those idiots we call Congress, our illustrious Congress, both sides. I'm telling you, those people disgust me. They're poor examples of human beings, in my opinion. But they are our leadership. And so Zuckerberg's there testifying in front of them. And whenever they bring somebody in to testify in front of them, I know something's up. And it's usually some kind of an effort to pull the wool over our eyes and to do something behind our backs. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist guy, but I've been around for 60 years, and I'm a pretty observant guy. And I just think that basically the deck's stacked against us, and government does what they want to do. And until, one of these days, what's going to hit the fan. And then they're going to find out that the people actually are the ones with the power. But so Zuckerberg's in there, and he's promoting this censorship thing that he wants to do, and, in censoring people's political opinions. Google does censoring in that they censor your search terms. And let me tell you the thing that's going to affect you health-wise. When you put in supplements, let's say you're looking for vitamin supplements, or you want to read about vitamin supplements, the top results that Google brings back are things like supplements are bad, supplements are useless, supplements are not regulated, supplements are bad for you, supplements are dangerous, supplements are scams. And then they'll throw one in. Supplements are good for you. And then they'll say supplements are garbage. So these are the top search results that come back. That has an effect on you. Believe it or not. You may think you're stronger than that. But when you see those kinds of results over and over, those things have an effect on you. And that's how they are affecting people's thinking. And that's how they are manipulating the healthcare market. And you can bet that the pharmaceutical companies have a hand in all this. And so you need to be cognizant of what's going on. Be strong in your understanding of what promotes good health. Eat more fruits, more vegetables, cut out many of the animal products, cut sugar out of your diet. You'll be much healthier and you won't have to worry about it. Dr. David Vitko here. Enjoy incredible health. See you back here next Sunday, folks. Thanks for listening.